like to talk about how to configure email deliverability in ConvertKit. So what is email deliverability? The definition of email deliverability is basically the number of emails that are received compared to what is sent. So in this case, you may have a different thing that you're doing for like an email marketing project or something, and you're sending out a number of emails. So the emails you sent may not all be received. And so email deliverability is the ratio of the two. Obviously, you want email deliverability to be very high. However, there is something to be concerned with. One is being received means it's actually in the inbox and not the spam folder. But the spam, because spam folder, people may not check it. So email deliverability also means trying to get into the inbox as opposed to the spam folder. The whole issue of email deliverability is actually related to some technical issues about an email. So typically in an email, we're used to things like the to, the from, the subject, the body of the email. But there's actually lots of technical things going around related to what's called the email header. And email deliverability is about information that's in this email header. So the first thing, just wanted to give you a little background on how email actually works. So you're familiar, there's many different protocols that are used on the internet. We don't really think of them much anymore. We just fire up a web browser, go to a website, and things just happen. But actually there are protocols behind. When you're in a web browser, you sometimes see the letters HTTP or HTTPS. Those are stands for Hypertransfer Text Protocol Secure. Those are how the World Wide Web or a web browser handles moving information data between your web browser and the web server. Email, on the other hand, has its protocol. It's called SMTP, which stands for Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. And so this is the actual process by which email is sent. So again, not necessarily anything about how to improve email deliverability, but SMTP is a protocol that actually delivers email. So the first thing that actually can help improve your email deliverability is something called SPF, which stands for Sender Policy Framework. What this basically is something within DNS, again, another acronym, but DNS is your domain name server or service. DNS is the thing that actually translates friendly names, such as a URL of a website, or in an email address, it would be the host name. So say something like Matt at ml2solutions.com. ML2 Solutions is the friendly way to know my business name, but in reality, there's an IP address behind there. So DNS is the place that translates that friendly name to that IP address. But DNS can do a lot of other different things, and one of them is this SPF, which in the end is actually just simply some text information. But the real key that SPF does is it says, hey, what are the email servers that are allowed to send email for this domain? So an example, again, if you're sending email from company@company.com, you wouldn't want to get an email from badperson@.com. And so the SPF record is one that the email server that's receiving the email can ask, hey, who should be sending this? They look that up. And if that email actually comes from it, then, hey, we know that's a real message. If not, it might be suspect and can be used to help eliminate different spam. Another thing that can be helpful to help in email deliverability is something called DKIM, which stands for Domain Key Identified Mail. So this is basically where an email message is encrypted so that you know that the message that when it's received is actually the message that was sent. And again, encryption keys, public, private keys is a very complex thing. But basically what it allows is an email server to find out if the message was sent without being altered or spoofed. And again, this is a way to determine whether or not the email was legitimate, because this also too uses DNS. Only the people who own the server or own the domain name who then can change these records. So again, it's another way to increase the trust factor that the email that's coming in was actually sent by the server that it said it was sent by. For the demo on email deliverability, we're going to go over a few things. First, we're going to set up and send a test broadcast message without any additional email deliverability setup, so we can actually see what that looks like. We'll then go into ConvertKit and look at the settings that we can choose to help increase the email deliverability. We'll make those changes to DNS, and then we'll compare again with another set of email tests. Okay, let's get started improving the email deliverability of our ConvertKit account. So the first thing to do is log back into our ConvertKit account. So we'll do login and type in our email and password. Okay, so the first thing let's do is let's just set up some test parameters here so that we can look at the emails as they come out with a recently created ConvertKit account. So what I'd like to do is test both Gmail email addresses and Microsoft Outlook email addresses. So we're going to go ahead and add a couple subscribers. When adding them, they want you to go ahead and put a tag. So we'll just use the default here, which is just the date that we're testing this. And we'll go ahead and just add a single subscriber. So first name, and then we'll enter the email address for this first test, and we'll save that. Okay, we got one in, and we'll go ahead and add a second one. Okay, so now we've entered two subscribers into our ConvertKit count, and we're ready to go ahead and do a very simple broadcast message to both of those subscribers. So we click on the broadcast button up here, and then we click on new broadcast. We go ahead and take the defaults, which is from our default email address sent to all subscribers. And then we hit next step. Shows us it'll go to two recipients. Email subject will go test number 1. And in the right, your email content will go, this is the first test. Okay. And again, I'm not going over a lot of other settings you'd want to do here, testing things and stuff like that. We're just sending out a very, very quick test email. So everything looks good, and we'll hit next step. Okay, once you have everything there, we'll go ahead and send this test broadcast out immediately. So just click the send broadcast button. And it says it's queued, and are you sure you want to send it? Yes, go ahead and send the broadcast. And the broadcast has now been queued for processing. So we'll go into Microsoft Outlook, and we don't have anything in our inbox, but we actually have a couple things in our junk mail. So we'll go ahead and look at those. So in this case, we have the first test, and I actually did another resending test as I was just wanting to make sure it showed up. So if we look at the Outlook one first we'll see that it's really not looking good. Well, this is because it's actually in the junk mail folder. And so Microsoft Outlook actually disables multiples of things. And if you actually look up here in this informational thing, you see that it says links and other functionality have been disabled in this message. To turn on that functionality, move the message to the inbox. So we'll go ahead and do that. Okay, so now I got our message in there. It's starting to look better. We got some links here, some pictures that aren't loading. The pictures loading is a very typical thing for Microsoft Outlook. This is done to prevent tracking, but of course we actually want tracking. So this is again one of the problems that the email programs are trying to prevent different issues from privacy and other things to do there. So in this case, we actually do want to send that information back to ConvertKit. So I'll click on this thing, and we'll actually say download pictures. And we'll see that now it says this. Okay, so now the message finally is pretty viewable. But we'll notice that there's still some other information up here to look at. First, we'll see it says, we could not verify the identity of the sender. Click here for more information. And then it says the actual sender of this message is different than the normal sender. So if we go ahead and look up here in the from here, we'll see that it has, that it's coming from our email that we created the ConvertKit with account with, but it says via n.convertkit.com. In this case, that is true. It is coming from ConvertKit. But from a branding standpoint, we really don't want it to say it's from ConvertKit. Yes, we have the information down here, but again, we're using the free account. So if we were to use a paid one, we could actually remove that. So anyway, so this is the first thing about email deliverability. One, it went into our junk mail. Two, it says, hey, this message isn't sent by the person you said it was going to be sent by. So now let's look at the message we sent to our Gmail account. Ironically, the same email that it supposedly came from. So we'll see that it's not in our inbox, and we're not really sure. We do more here, and we go down, and we see spam. So we'll go ahead and open up the first message here, and we'll get a couple different things. One, we'll see a big warning that this is, why is this message spam? It's similar to messages that were identified as spam in the past. Okay, fair enough. We can report it as not being spam, which would help. But we also notice up here it has the same kind of issue via ConvertKit.com. Again, not the worst thing, but again, not great for branding. Go ahead and click here on the via. No, nothing. Oh, extra information sent in sender's name. So this is just Gmail giving us the information that it was actually sent from someone else. Is different the site. So. And they, of course, actually talk about how to remove the information from Gmail. And this is what we're going to get into next, which is publishing an SFP record and a DKIM record. So in ConvertKit now, we're wanting to check how to improve our email deliverability with different settings here. So what we'll do is we'll go to our account, and we'll go to Account Settings. And we'll go to Email. And we'll scroll down to this optional verified sending domain. Learn more about the verified sending domains and if this is right for you. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this link here so that you're aware of the article existing, because this basically goes through and explains what is done. Now, it does note it's an advanced article and that there's information in here. It also notes that to first make sure that a verified sending domain is right for you. And they say it's best for senders who are send at least 50,000 messages a month and have an average rate of at least 20%. If you don't fit these criteria, ConvertKit actually doesn't recommend moving forward. I'm going to let you make that ultimate decision whether or not to actually add this to your records. But again, this is information that can help on email deliverability, and there are other articles on ConvertKit that talk about doing what the next steps that I'm going to go through. What we're curious in this case is the sending instructions. So I'll go through them real quick so you have a basic understanding. So they're going to actually have us create what's called a CNAME record, which is a different specific type of DNS records that's basically short for canonical name. And it's where one name represents another one. So it's going back to the information we'll go through, but I'll just point these out right now. So we're going to go ahead and go back so we can get back to that setting, and we're going to go ahead and click on verify your domain. So we go ahead and type in the domain that we're looking for, in this case the one that's the sending domain. So go ahead and type in the domain we want our emails to come from. So this is going to be our domain name of our website and eventually our email accounts. And we'll click the verify button. Okay, so what this did is basically create a few different records here that we're going to want to put into our DNS. So I'm going to go ahead and walk you through how to do that. Okay, so first step to set this up is you want to go to the company that you registered your domain name with. Could be different things. In this case, we've registered our domain with hover.com. So I'm going to go to hover.com and log in. Okay, and once you're logged in, you'll be kind of at your dashboard here. What we want to do is go to the DNS tab, and we'll see the current DNS settings for our website, or for our domain name. In this case, we're going to add a couple new records to this. So what we want to do is we actually go back to the information that's here, and we'll notice that these are both what again are called CNAME records. They have a host information and they have a value. So what's nice is they give us these great copy buttons. So we're going to go ahead and create this first CNAME record. So we're going to go and copy the host. I'm going to go back here and we're going to do an add record. Type is CNAME. Go ahead and paste in the information that is for the host name. Go back and grab the value in this case. And in hover, that's actually the target information. Okay, add that record. And we'll do the same with the other one. Okay, we've now added both those CNAME records. They have the host information, they have the values, and the other information here. Just real quick to let you know, you'll see the one SPF. So that's, again, the first record that we'll want, the Sender Protection Framework, and the DKMI, Domain Key Identity Manager. So those have been set. And they've already been saved in our profile. So now they're going to start replicating through the internet as our DNS information is updated. Okay, we'll come back to our ConvertKit screen, and we'll notice now we have this validate button. So depending on the amount of time it takes for those records to get through the internet, this may or may not work right away. So if you click validate and it doesn't, that's okay. Just come back in a little bit and click validate again. So we'll see that our domain has been validated. So go ahead and close. And again, we'll see that your domain has been validated here and everything's set up there. Okay, now that it's been validated, we still need to wait for those DNS records to run. But let's go ahead and send out a test one and see if the DNS has replicated through the internet. So again, we go up to broadcast. We do a new broadcast. We select our subscribers, which in this case is all of them. Next step. For the email subject, we'll type in test number 2. Body is test number 2. And next step. And everything's set up to go, and we go ahead and send the broadcast. And it says it's queued, so it's sending. And it's been queued for processing, and we'll see it processing sending here. And we'll just refresh the screen, and we'll see that it's completed. So first thing we'll do is we'll go over to our Gmail account. And we'll go to the inbox. And we'll check the spam folder. And we'll see, unfortunately, it did go into the spam folder again. But if we open it up, we'll see that it hasn't changed. So we haven't waited long enough. So we'll give it a little more time and we'll do another test. So I actually did some troubleshooting to try to figure out why the test did not improve the email deliverability. And in one of the things I was looking for, I actually checked out the email settings inside of ConvertKit. And since I was so focused on verifying the domain, I actually totally missed this warning that popped up, which says you're using free email addresses. This can negatively impact your deliverability. Learn more. And again, we created this ConvertKit account using houseservicecompany.washington.gmail, which is, again, our common Gmail, Google account that we're using for our business in this case. But again, that's not recommended. And if you think about it, it makes sense. Our domain name is houseservicecompany.com, but we're sending the email from houseservicecompany.washington@gmail.com. So yeah, we're confusing it because we set up the deliverability records for a different domain. So the best thing to do, and this is again one of those issues of many things are interconnected. Ideally, once you picked your domain name, once you've set up a purchase that domain name, you'd want to set up your website and you want to set up an email account with that domain name. In this example and how I'm kind of creating these videos, kind of jumping a few steps ahead. So ideally, we would want to create a email address related to that domain name. So one of the ways to do that is, well, actually, there's many ways to create an email account. But in this case, I'm going to do the one that is the easiest and the cheapest that accomplishes the goal that we're trying to have here, which is basically to be able to send out a broadcast email message. So now we have an email address associated with our domain name. So now we're going to go back into ConvertKit. Okay, we'll go ahead now and we need to add another email address to our ConvertKit account. So we'll go ahead and hit the from address. The from name, we're going to just type in my name, so Matt. And the from address is matt@houseservicecompany.com and hit add. Okay, well now see it's pending. They want to actually confirm that email address is correct. So we'll go ahead and go to our Gmail account and we'll see that that message has already appeared. So we'll go ahead and open it up and it's asking us to verify it. So we'll go ahead and click verify. Okay, now it's confirmed. We want to go ahead and set this as a default. Okay. And since we now have that one here, let's go ahead and just delete the one for the Gmail because we should never use it and we don't want to accidentally use it either. Okay, so we now have our from email address set up to be the same domain that we're registering. So in order to do this test now, I've actually removed the verified sending domain so that it's kind of back to the beginning phase, and we'll go ahead and test that again with an earlier test, and then we'll add the information back in and let it replicate so that we're given enough time to fully test this. So we'll go ahead and do our second round of testing. So we'll go back to broadcast. We'll create a new broadcast. And you'll notice here now our new address is showing up, so that's great. We'll hit next step. We'll call this test number 5. And I'll just add new from. Okay, and I'll just write in a body text message there. Test message, excuse me. Okay, so now we have our from, and we have our message. We got our 2 recipients, which are still valid, and we'll hit send broadcast. Okay, it's queued. We'll refresh, and it's completed. Okay, so we'll go ahead and check our mailbox, and we see our test 5 message here, and it's still showing the via ConvertKit, but that's to be expected because we removed our domain records. One interesting thing about this test, as opposed to the previous test, they actually went into the inbox. So that's a good sign. So much like the ConvertKit warning that it gave us that it was not recommended to use free email addresses. So apparently part of doing the proper from address matching our domain right there, that actually got us, at least in Gmail, not to go into the spam folder. So again, here's a perfect example already of deliverability. Using a free email address in this scenario with ConvertKit caused Gmail to put it into spam immediately. So let's go ahead and check out Outlook. Now, one thing to be interesting here is we did set up that forwarding from Gmail to our email address. So again, that's why we're getting these 2 messages. But again, same things occurring here. Both of them are coming into our inbox. So again, this too, it was better than junk mail. But we'll notice that again, from ConvertKit with the new message still happening. And if we go back to Gmail and open up that again, we'll see there. Okay, so again, this is second test, and we're moving there. So now we want to go back to Hover and add those different records in, since we've retested and got the result we're looking for. Okay, so now both those records are in Hover, and now we'll let the DNS records replicate through the internet. But just because we've gotten a little bit better on this one, let's go ahead and do another test message. So we'll go to broadcast. We'll hit new broadcast, create a new one, but again, our from field is not correct. Our subscribers, we'll hit next. Type in a new subject line, and we'll type in some email content. Okay. Everything looks good on the preview, so go ahead and send the broadcast. Processing the broadcast message, we'll go and refresh, and we'll see that it's completed. Okay, we'll now go to our Gmail account. We'll see the message has already appeared. And now that everything's aligned, we'll have now seen that the from ConvertKit has been removed as affected by our increased email deliverability by adding the different records that we needed to our DNS. So everything's looking a lot better there. So we'll go to our Outlook account, and we'll see here that this too has been resolved, and the ConvertKit has been eliminated. Again, you'll still have this issues with pictures, but that's just how Outlook works to try to prevent some of those things. So we'll go and just download pictures to make sure we get everything. So again, we now see in Outlook, we have a much better branded message here. We see where it's coming from and where it's going to. And again, if we go back to Gmail, we'll see the same information here. In conclusion then, we have changed our email deliverability by improving the settings in ConvertKit, by verifying it, changing our DNS records to have the different things, and the showing the before and after on how the email works. The one, again, stumbling block that you wouldn't have typically is we were using the from field to be our Gmail address as opposed to an email address from the domain in question. So some conclusions about email deliverability. Again, email deliverability is a thing to try to increase the ability that the email is actually delivered as opposed to just being sent. But again, the key is to make sure it's in the inbox as opposed to the spam filter. So to do that, we want to increase the likelihood that this email is trusted because it is shown to come from the place that it was supposed to be sent from, and it was not altered in transmission. These two factors are set through DNS. And in the end, again, it's to improve the trust of the email being received.